Mel everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. I had complaints about not playing that jingle, so I figured I'd just do it. Can you hear me okay? I'm just gonna pretend you hear me okay. I'm gonna talk about GME, get that over with. I had the choice between whether or not to go out and have a beer after my workday, like a normal cat, versus staying home and doing a live stream on YouTube talking about GameStop in the tradition of Roaring Kitty and sipping my glass of wine. So here we go. I'm just going to go through a little bit in terms of what I'm seeing here. I was asked about this a couple weeks ago. I really wasn't really believing in it because all the technicals didn't really show me there was going to be any, kind of, let me see. Can you guys hear me okay? So, yeah, okay. Yeah, the technicals didn't really show me anything that was really going to say that it's going to break out or anything like that, but next thing you know, it just did, right? This is a monthly chart. What's happening right now is just when Ballistic went all the way up to the Ichimoku cloud here on the monthly chart and got rejected over here as expected, right? The time before that, it took a lot longer for it to kind of get up there. And when it got up there, once it closed inside the cloud, it just shot way over above, right? I don't know whether or not we're going to have the same setup over here, but there's going to be, a little bit of a caution here. You did end up getting a little bit of bullish taking Kijun across here on the monthly, and we just end up getting it just within like a couple of days, which is absolutely amazing. But sure enough, it's at pretty key resistance right now. So I wouldn't expect it to all of a sudden just kind of push through. But again, like who knows? The volume is like absolutely insane, and the volume is actually not as high as it was at this big giant God candle. I mean, like it's at the level of like right around here when this crazy move started that lasted for about like 6 or 7 months. If you look at different time frames, you look at the 2 week of the Ichimoku cloud, you can see that it broke inside Ichimoku cloud but got rejected at the top of Ichimoku cloud, right? If you look at other time frames, you look at the weekly, it went way above already. But there are some concerns that I have, and these concerns are going to be more from the overextension kind of thing. You can see that if you look at the monthly Bollinger Band, what you're going to see right here is that you're actually starting, like when I was asking down here, I was like, I don't know, like the 20-month moving average just keep on curling down, and the whole thing just keeps on going down. Like this can go on down forever. Like you don't know when it's going to end up having a trend reversal. Like there's just no signal for that, right? But next thing you know, it just takes maybe one monthly candle to kind of reverse and push the 20-month moving average up. Kind of like over here, it just took maybe a couple of candles over here to really push the moving average up, right? And to be completely honest, like after you turn the 20-month moving average up like that, there's a possibility where this bull trend may have just kind of gotten started and might last for a few months, possible, right? But this uptrending is very positive development. I do not like the fact that it's like way outside upper Bollinger Band on the monthly. That's a little bit of a concern. But it's extending the Bollinger Band. I mean, over time, maybe over the next couple of months, few months or so, there's potential for it to keep going up a lot higher as long as there continues to be volume coming in, right? So there is a little bit of similarities between the two, and you can see the Bollinger Band is starting to really expand over here. So we'll see what happens with that. The question is going to be, where are we compared over here compared to over here, right? It's hard for me to say for sure, but the best guess I have is I think that depending on where the monthly candle end up closing, if we end up closing about the Bollinger Band kind of like this, there's a potential that we might be more closer to here, when we're starting to get pretty impulsive and starting to expand the Bollinger Band up and down. I think we might be like a little bit closer to here, which means that there might be some pretty crazy stuff coming, but there's no guarantee. There's a huge cyber consolidation over here though. What really gets me a little bit concerned about this is if you look at the institution fund flow, you actually can see like when prices kind of going down, there's actually increasing institution ownership for GameStop. So I don't think this short squeeze is really purely based on retail. I actually think that there's going to be maybe like a little bit of a little bit of institutional that are just coming in and trying to take advantage of the short squeeze situation. And once these things get started, once the bull trend gets started, it can potentially, keep on going for a little bit longer. Like you just don't know. There are some concerns though, like if you look at the weekly, it is way outside the upper Bollinger Band. Can it stay way outside the upper Bollinger Band for an extended period of time? Sure. But if you're looking at this as like the beginning of, bullishness over here, you generally may have a little bit of, a little bit of a sideways move to kind of get back inside of, upper Bollinger Band. If it keeps on having these big giant green candles that are like just way outside of upper Bollinger Band like that back to back for weeks, that's usually when the trend like completely gets exhausted. So I don't like this look. If it end up having another couple of back-to-back candles just like crazy, then I wouldn't necessarily stay in this, right? But on the other hand, one thing to think about is if you're really trying to look for an exit plan and you're not sure whether or not you should chase, but you cannot help but to FOMO in, one thing that you can consider is this. You can consider that you see that right now there's a very, very bullish green candle over here and down. And it's really expanding the Bollinger Band up and down, right? Well, the Bollinger Band hasn't really extended all the way down to the bottom yet. Like if this is really something that's very, very impulsive, which I think it is, and I would really start to get worried when the Bollinger Band starts to come back from all the way down there, back above, right? That's really what's telling you that this trend is really, really exhausted because of these big giant green candles over here. If it doesn't come back, let's say for example, like you bought like up here, right? And you think that it's probably going to go higher, but next thing you look at a weekly Bollinger Band and you're seeing this kind of going up. That's when you're really looking at a potential trend exhaustion, right? So I think that there are indicators that you can look at potentially exit if that's what you want to get into. I'm not getting into this. I'm just fascinated by it, and but I'm not getting into this. But if you want to look into getting out of it, potentially one indicator is if the Bollinger Band end up going all the way down to the floor. One thing is you can just wait for this band to kind of come up and it's like, okay, warning sign, exit. Yeah, another thing is, I know it's like supposed to be like a retail kind of stock, but if you just look at the well fund floor, you have like a buy signal over here this month, and these are when they flash, they can keep on going potentially, right? So I'm not getting into this just because there's just so much volatility and so much unpredictability, but I do see it potentially being something fun to get into. You do whatever you want to do, right? Just going to get into AMC here real quick just to kind of finish the thought, because I was asked about this too. It's not nearly as good. Like if you just pull up the monthly Ichimoku cloud, it got rejected by the Tenkan, by the blue line over here. If you look at the 2-week, it got rejected by the Tenkan, by the blue line over here. If you look at the weekly, it got rejected by the Tenkan over here. Although the weekly is starting to see a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross over here, right? But monthly, far from it, right? Does it mean that the short squeeze is over because of this big giant volume that's coming? There's potentially some bullishness that's going to happen, right? But I'm just not so sure because I'm seeing rejection on some pretty key resistance. So I'm not really so sure about getting into something like this. If you look at the Bollinger Band, again, there's no confirmation here at all in AMC on the monthly. On the weekly, it is hitting the way outside of the Bollinger Band and just got rejected, right? On the daily, however, like this is something that really gets me concerned. I would not enter at this moment as far as I'm concerned, because the candle is just way outside the daily Bollinger Band. Like it's just way outside in space. Even from the prior, bull cycle, when things get like way outside in space, usually you tend to have a little bit of a cool down. And when things like this happens, I worry that it might be getting way too exhausted, right? Like these things are like not sustainable. So not to say that you shouldn't enter if that's something you feel very strongly about, but I'm staying away. The interesting thing is, why are all these things happen? I definitely want to talk about Mara. Thank you for asking about that. The interesting thing is, why are these things happening? If you also look at the fund flow, look at the fund flow over here for AMC, like it doesn't really quite turn positive yet, although it could if it keeps on going. But anyway, there's just a lot of uncertainty. I'm not entering this. Whatever you guys want to do. Why is this thing's happening? I think a lot big reason is because I think it might be time for small caps to run. It might be time for like some pretty interesting risk on behavior to come on. And one of the biggest indicator I look at is the IWM, which is the ETF for the Russell 2000 small cap. And this has direct correlation in terms of MARA too, because I really do think, and I've shown you on previous posts before too, I really do think that MARA is almost like a leverage play of IWM. Like it looks the same because they're basically getting very, very similar pools of liquidity, right? I'm not making this up. This is IWM, which is Russell 2000. This is MARA. They look the same. Like I'm not making this up. So I'm just going to focus on IWM, which really is a big marker for risk on behavior. And what's really been happening is you look at the fund flow, you have a significantly increase in fund flow while price just kind of going sideways. And when we had something like this that happened during the last cycle when price went sideways and you have significant increase in fund flow, you're not getting a God candle soon after that. You also have a very similar morphology too, a little bit of green, red, green, a little bit of green, red, green. It might be building a lot of energy that's, yeah, I know, like Tom Lee is very, very bullish on that. And I do want to talk about SOFI as well. I do want to talk about that. There's just a lot of things to talk about. But I do see a pretty similar set over here as we did over here before this, big giant God candle to come, right? A lot of consolidation has happened here. A lot of energy has been building up, and a lot of whales have been entering quietly, even the price just going sideways, right? Same thing over here, right? Same thing over here, right? Whales entering, price went sideways, even down a little bit, but there's an uptrend over here, right? Next signals followed by this big bullish engulfing candle, followed by another like 2 years of up. Same thing over here, right? You have an increase in fund flow when price just kind of went sideways. Next thing you know, you had a gap up over here, and this monthly gap still hasn't been closed up to this date, right? If you also look at the Ichimoku cloud, also shows you a very, very similar look over here too. If I just go and pull that up here, you see that when you have the bullish Chicken Kitchen cross, when the blue is crossing with the red over here, generally it starts out with some, very bullish behavior soon afterwards, and they can end up consolidating here for a little while before going up. But generally, this is, anticipating a potentially very, very bullish move going upwards. Last time it happened with very, very similar morphology was over here, right? You can see that you have a bullish cross up here. Next thing you know, price just boom, 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 just went up for, like half a year until it, got really completely exhausted. In the time before that, you have a bullish cross over here, right? Big, giant green candle, bullish engulfing, went up for like 2 years, right? Time before that, bullish cross, right? Just kept going up. Another thing to look at the Ichimoku cloud too is whenever you you might have gotten underneath the cloud and you went back and you back tested it, that could set up for a pretty impressive bull move up too. And you can see that last time when it kind of went down during COVID, went back up, back tested, shoot, right? This right here didn't even go underneath. It just back tested the top of the cloud, the little trees there bottom over here, shoot, right? Over here, back tested the top of the cloud and just went ballistic. You had a bullish engulfing candle and just went ballistic. I think we might be having pretty similar setup. I think it back tested twice, actually, twice. So this is a pretty solid footing. If you're one of those folks that you don't want to chase, you would probably want to buy around here. Really want to get into like more risk on stocks and things like that around here. Because the narrative right now, including stocks like Mara, Bitfarms, including a lot of the fintech stocks, including a lot of really kind of risk on stocks, has just been absolutely horrible. But if IWM runs, the other stocks, the more speculative stocks, are probably going to end up running along with it. I think Mara is linked to both Bitcoin and IWM. I think everything's kind of linked together. but the condition is just not kind of entirely ripe yet. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of rotation that are happening. But so far, like, you're really seeing the month of May, like there's some signs for small cap. Looks like there might be a lot of kind of rotation that's happening. Ichimoku Cloud is confirming that it might be the beginning of the cycle. If you're asking about how long the cycle runs, I'll do this, after the bullish Tengen cross, right? This over here, it's like a little bit blow off the top cycle. I really think that what happened over here was you had originally had a bullish cross over here, but you ended up having COVID, which is the true black swan event, which really dragged the whole thing down. I think if without COVID, you would have had, a more steady rise, kind of like the previous cycle that might have lasted for like 2 or 3 years. But this morphology has really been, significantly disturbed. So the previous cycle before that, once you had the Tengen cross last for about 2 years, once you had a Tengen cross, it lasts for about 3 years, right? So these cycles typically, once you have a Tengen cross, it lasts for about, like year and a half, right? So I think that they could last anywhere from here on out for about anywhere from like 1 year and a half, all the way up to potentially like 3 years, right? It's just been building a base like it hasn't been done before. Like this is something that is a sight to see in terms of a base forming. So it could be a pretty powerful move whenever it ends up going up. If you look at the Bollinger Band on the monthly here, you can see, I like to look at Bollinger Band because it really does tell you a little bit, like a very easy looking to see whether or not it's flipping from a bear cycle to a bull cycle, whenever it goes down and then it turns up again, that usually signifies like maybe beginning of a bull cycle, right? It's doing that right now. It's only been doing that for about half a year, right? Over here, it's only been doing over here for about half a year. And next thing you know, things just kind of went ballistic pretty quick, right? And I really do think that without COVID, this thing would have just kept going up like that. And the bull market would have probably went on for, more smoothly. Over here, gosh, you guys are asking a lot of questions. I feel bad. I just want to kind of go through this. Over here, you can see that, you start to have the 20-month moving average trying to curl up over here. And whenever that happens for a few months, like it really precipitated a very, very strong bull trend that just kind of hugged the upper Bollinger Band, just kept going up, right, for about 2 years. Same thing over here, crawling up, right? Next thing you know, it kind of hugged the upper Bollinger Band for about a year and then just kind of get a little bit exhausted, back test, finally get completely exhausted. So I really do think that this is a pretty bullish sign over here in terms of the fact that you're seeing a 20-month moving average crawling up. All you really need is like a very impulsive candle, kind of like this one, and then maybe this one, to really kind of get the Bollinger Band expand a little bit to allow price to kind of just keep going up, the upper Bollinger Band go up, right? So again, like all of this stuff is going to be relevant when you're talking about miners, right? Miners, I'm going to pull up like miners. They look very similar to what IWM is doing. Like last cycle and this cycle, it looks very similar. This is Mara, right? You look at Bitfarms, look very, very similar, right? This is what Bitfarm is doing. Like it didn't have the last cycle to show you, but this cycle is very, very similar, right? Price is still on the upper part of the monthly Bollinger Band. The 20-month moving average is still crawling up, right? So a lot of these kind of stocks are looking very similar. Like if you look at, like you don't even look at CleanSpark, you know that it's bullish. Like this is more bullish than all the other ones, to be completely honest, right? So, and you look at CIFR, same thing, right? So I really do think that IWM going up is going to help these stocks to really pop, especially if you end up having the IWM got candle that it had back here. It's really going to cause a lot of the minor stocks to pop. It's going to cause a lot of the more speculative stocks to really pop, And yeah, and there's been a lot of people that really just been shorting the crap out of these stocks, and there's potentially a lot of short squeeze that could be coming, especially when you have liquidity coming. And I know that liquidity is coming because I don't have it here. Where are my futures? Because the Hang Seng index has just done something that it hasn't done for quite some time. The Hang Seng index for the month of May has finally got above the 20-month moving average, and it's turning the 20-month moving average up. China is printing money, China's printing money. It's also got a very, very interesting kind of like Adam and Eve kind of pattern over here. Now, I still don't have confirmation because I like to see a month close, but sometimes you wait for confirmation. It might be a little bit too late. I'm not trying to tell you to get into Chinese stocks. I'm just saying that liquidity is coming into everything. If Chinese is pumping, that's all I'm saying. And if you're worried about rates, think about not in terms of rates, think about in terms of global liquidity. Think about how do you know global liquidity has been increasing for quite some time, because Bitcoin's been forming higher highs and higher lows for quite some time. So yeah, I'm seeing some potential bullish development over here for IWM, and I agree with Tom Lee. And I've also looked at the technicals. I also agree that it's a pretty good setup. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but it's a pretty good setup, and that's all I can say. What does that mean? Like, people talk about yields too, right? What does it mean when it comes to yields? Well, I mean, yields have just really been kind of exhausting. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it really has kind of gone down underneath the Tenkan multiple times. It's just looks like it's tired. It's hanging on to the Tenkan, still above the Tenkan right now. But I'm just not so sure. Like, this whole thing looks entirely very, very tired to me. How do I know that it looks tired? I mean, if I just pull up the RSI, if I just draw a line from here down like that, you can see that this line actually works out pretty well, right? There is a trend line over here, and looks like RSI just can be hitting resistance and resistance and resistance. And this move up like that has been on bearish divergence. So this whole trend right here is exhausted. Now, I'm not saying that, rates go down, it's going to be like bullish for stocks. I'm not saying rates go down, it's going to not have like, the associated recession. A lot of people worry about recessions. I think a lot of people are kind of jumping a step. They think that rates going down mean recession. No, it means that if you have recession, the rates are most likely going to go down, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're necessarily correlate one another. Although I do think that rates are getting exhausted. It's not just the 2 year, the 10 years also doing the same thing. It's just going underneath the Tenkan, and it's kind of hitting on the Tenkan on the thread, while RSI just look completely exhausted, right? Everybody's been talking about inflation. That's probably the reason why I'm not really worried about inflation, to be completely honest with you, because everybody's freaking talking about it. What's oil doing? It just went inside the monthly Ichimoku cloud. Like, it's like, is it going to like bounce from the cloud? Not necessarily. It looks like whenever oil gets above the cloud, and whenever it gets trying to get to the cloud again, it usually doesn't bounce from it. That's just not what oil does. It's not like a growth asset, like a tech stock. It's not Bitcoin. Like, it's cyclical, right? So whenever it gets close to the cloud, and when it gets inside the cloud, it generally likes to go to the bottom of the cloud, potentially fall out of the cloud. People have been talking about inflation like crazy over here for the month of April, because January, February, March, oil was going up. Well, guess what? It just made a lower high, and it's got a shooting star candle over here. It's falling through for the month of May. And also, guess what? You had a bearish cross over here of the monthly. The Kijun got above the Tenkan dropped down below. And right now, oil is getting rejected by Tenkan. Like, this is a very bearish look for oil. I don't know like how else to kind of talk about it. Actually, let's look at a different time frame. This is monthly, right? I'm going to pull up like 2 week. Yeah, 2 week gives you an even better picture in terms of what's happening with oil. Oil dropped down underneath the cloud, trying to bounce from the top of the cloud, got rejected. Try to get back to the bottom of the cloud, getting rejected, just like I did back in high school. No hard feelings. It happens. When you're getting resistance, sometimes for no reason at all. Like, I'm just like kind of hanging out, was talking to a girl cat, just thinking they were friends, whatever. And next thing you know, like, she says like, "Oh, I would never sleep with you." Like, what the heck was that coming from? Who the heck do you think you are? Anyway, done with that. I'm a married cat. I'm happy now. It's fine. No trauma. But it got rejected over here. Right? Rejection is rejection. We'll see how much demand there is down here for oil. I'm not really buying that inflation narrative. The US dollar, DXY, Dixie. On a bull trend, rise the Tenkan up, right? Rise the blue line up, right? The trend just went completely exhausted, and it's basically just going sideways. But right now, it's got inside the 2-week cloud, and it's just been bouncing ping pong between up and down, up and down. It can't really decide what to do, but it did have a tweezer top on the month of March and April, and so far it's falling through. So we'll see when it gets to the bottom of the cloud. We'll see how it reacts. If IWM is to do well, this thing's probably going to go down. Everything, like, there's a lot of these kinds of like confluences that are happening. And again, you know, if you look at the monthly, that was the 2-week. If you look at the monthly, it's still above the cloud, but it looks like it's forming a tweezer top over here too on the monthly. It's doing a little bit of a lower high. And it's also got a bearish cross where you know, Kijun is above the Tenkan, and price just got rejected by the Kijun over here with the US dollar. So a lot of things are kind of lining up to make me think that things might look good. I don't know. Things are just starting to potentially look good. I do want to talk about a couple other things here real quick. If you want to look at the ARK fund, it's looking very similar to the IWM. It's just, you know, it has like a very, very similar morphology to it, except for this big giant downward trend over here. But I do think that IWM, if that does well, like ARK fund, all the stocks like Tesla, Zoom, Roku, all that crap, they're probably going to end up doing pretty well too. Right now, it's just been kind of consolidating sideways, but it's been trying to turn the Tenkan, the monthly Tenkan here, from resistance to support, and it's just been oscillating. Right now, so far in the middle of May, we're above the Tenkan, so all these are, you know, very positive signs over here. Yeah, if you look at the Bollinger Band, it's also got a very, very similar morphology to the IWM, doesn't it? You know, like it looks the same, like it's just crawling up, and price is getting supported by the 20-month moving average just pointing up. So this is not anything that's, you know, entirely surprising, although it's lagging behind even IWM. So I don't know. You don't have to have price go back all the way up to like all-time high for you to have these stocks to do well. You just have to go from, you know, with like ARK fund, go from like 40s to like 60s, or like, you know, I think it doesn't have to do anything crazy. For example, you just have to have these stocks go from here, have a bull trend, and go up to hit like the 60s, and these stocks would still be doing very, very well. So let me take a sip of water. One thing that I've been asked about ARKG is that ARKG has been absolutely destroyed. And I do have a position, and I am underwater. And ARKG has just been absolutely brutalized, like out of proportion. Bull market, rise the Tenkan up. Bear market, literally getting rejected by a negative sloping Tenkan, right? When is that going to end? Maybe here, where you have this multi-year support, where you have a lot of, you know, demand potentially down here in the low 20s. Found support once, right? Got rejected by the Tenkan again, finding support twice. Yeah, buying here is kind of like buying AMC. Like, there's no confirmation, but hey, maybe it'll work out. But I do think that there's a lot of, you know, multi-year support down here. If you look at the 2-week, it hasn't even really gotten close to the cloud. If you look at the weekly, it's going to give you a lot more clear picture in terms of what's happening with ARKG. What ARKG is really doing is it got back here, trying to break back into the cloud over here once, got rejected twice, rejected third time, fourth time, fifth time so far, right? We'll see if fifth time is the charm, because gosh, you know, I don't know, man. You know, this move up here is promising. It does have like a little bit of a double bottom look over here, but you do have a lot of resistance about that. It needs to kind of get over with. But again, if IWM does well, ARKG is going to do well. Like, this is not, to me, it's not that big of a deal in terms of its technical. And I know, after all, like, the cloud has been tested multiple times, and the cloud's getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and it's getting less and less decelerating, right? So the cloud over here is going to get pretty weak if it decides to attack the price and get above the cloud, and maybe even back test the cloud and go up higher. That would be the signal of risk on. Like, if ARKG does well, like, that's going to be the signal for risk on. You guys ask about Shopify. I did buy the Shopify dip. I will keep buying the Shopify dip. And I think that Shopify may be getting close to getting done correcting. This is the weekly chart for Shopify. You know, last week it was a very, very bearish candle that dropped all the way down. There's not really like a whole lot of wick underneath right here. So you would expect that this week to have a little bit of bearish continuation. And sure enough, you know, it's only been Tuesday, but you have a little bit of a rectangle over here. But you're finding support. You're finding support from multiple confluences. You're finding support here at the weekly cloud, right? It can dip down below. It doesn't matter. It can close down below for the week, but it can still have a pretty strong reversal, right? Shopify has done this before. Like, it kind of corrected. You think that correction ended right here, right? But no, it decided to just keep on brutalizing, just keep going down like that. Like, that's what it does. It's a part of its personality. If you look at the overall, let me get rid of the cloud. There might be a little bit more, but like, remember the cloud being support over here and support over here, right? Let me get rid of the cloud here. I'm just going to draw some lines and rectangles because that's what people do technical analysis do. That's all we do. We just draw meaningless lines and rectangles that don't mean anything. And you can see like a head, that invert head or shoulder here that didn't mean anything. You see that we have a high volume breakout over here that didn't mean anything. You see a back test down here that didn't mean anything. You see a bounce over here from this level here that didn't mean anything. It just keeps on going up, right? And next thing you know, you move up here. You see a very different pattern over here, don't you? You see more of a, and I posted this along the way for Shopify, like for like 2 years straight, as it was happening. I was posting. Is forming like a very nice handle over here, right? A cup handle, high volume breakout, back test. Was this going to be it? Maybe another back test. Nope. Broke down. Decided back test the same level down here, right? Found support, bounce, right? Okay, great. So let's have some bullish continuation over here. What's going to happen? Let's move up. What do you see? Another cup and handle. Another high volume breakout. Sorry, actually, this breakout's not that high volume. Another breakout, right? Went way up. I'll show you what happened over here in a second. Came back down, back tested. Is that going to be it? Like it was going to be over here? Nope. Went down further, tested another level below, right? It's finding support like around here, basically. So there's a lot of like confluence of support actually that I'm not that worried about it. If you look at the monthly, actually look at the 2 week Ichimoku cloud, it's not showing anything. Let's go to monthly. So what happened over here is on the monthly, you basically got rejected up here at the bottom of the cloud. And we got rejected. Everybody's like, you know, is it going to find support here at Tenkan? Possibly, right? Because there's a pretty nice horizontal support over here, and also a nice volume shelf over here too, right? Nope. Decided to just go down, straight down. Was the volume high during this downtrend? No. But it went down anyway. Where does it find support? At the Kijun right down here. Kijun is 57.6, right? And guess what? Around the level over here, right? In addition to weekly Ichimoku cloud, in addition to the Kijun line here on the monthly, in addition to being at the bottom of this volume shelf over here. And if you also put up the Bollinger Band, you can also see that, hey, it's right where the rising 20-month moving average is going up. It's kind of like this. Like, you're trying to slam into something, you're falling from the sky, and you're falling. You're trying to find some level of support. Next thing you know, you got like a plane that's just kind of flying, and it's basically squishing that level right around here. Right now, the 20-month moving average is at 58.34. It would not surprise me at all if it ends up closing at above the 20-month moving average, kind of like how it did over here, found support over here. There's a lot of similarities over at this candle over here on October 2023 to May of 2024. A lot of similarities between this, between the formation, and it's just kind of fascinating to me. Like there's a lot of similarity between these two. You think that Tenkan was going to serve as support? Nope, went back down. But same thing over here. You think Tenkan is going to support? Nope, went back down, right? But all these moves, like the volume is really not that big. All it takes is just a little higher volume to kind of reverse the entire thing, just go up a lot higher. So I'm not entirely that worried. A lot of people think that Shopify had to drop all the way down to like 50 or like the high 40s for them to buy. I guess it's possible, I mean, yeah, are there like gaps and things like that you guys are looking at on the daily? Like, are daily gaps going to end up always filling? Not necessarily, right? Yeah, there's some daily gaps over here. Looks like it's not doing very well over here, does it? But looks like the volume's also, really going down over here too. So are the bears going to have enough energy to kind of push down to like in the 40s and try to close this gap? I don't know. I don't know. Let's look at one more thing. I just want to look at one more thing here. Yeah, you got a pretty nice hidden bullish divergence over here on the RSI here too. So I think like the lower it goes, the higher the potential reward you would have. So yeah, I'm gonna end up probably end up buying Shopify, but yeah, that was that. Some people ask about SOFI. SOFI stuck in a range. I would expect it to bounce from the bottom of the range. There is really in like no cat's land right now in terms of whether or not it's bullish or bearish. You do have a lot of these kind of high sell volume bars over here, but price didn't really go down that much, to be completely honest with you. So there's a lot of stocks that have traded hands over here that actually didn't end up pushing the price down that low, which tells me there are some hidden folks that are buying secretly. And I know that because even though price went down from here, from this point down to this point, with these big sell volume candles over here from January all the way up to now, the unbalanced volume is actually up. There's a bullish divergence between the two. So it tells me that even though there's a lot of like these big giant sell volume, price didn't go down that far, there's actually a lot of these kind of hidden kind of bullish divergence actually telling me that there is demand over here. You're just not seeing it. Is this something that is still in a bull trend? I'm going to pull up the monthly here. Sorry about these labels. I'm just going to leave these labels here for now. Obviously, I'm not showing the Ichimoku cloud over here, but I do want to go to the monthly chart. I do want to show the Bollinger Band. I do want to show this here. The 20-month moving average is going up. And as I was saying on my previous SOFI video, price dropped down, underneath the 20-month moving average is not a good look. But because the 20-month moving average is pointing up, it's not going to serve as very, very good resistance. It's going to serve as a better support. And sure enough, so far we do have a little bit of like a bullish engulfing look to it, doesn't it? And right now, price is end up getting back above the 20-month moving average. So there is live in it, and there's a lot of kind of like these hidden things that you're seeing that like the unbalanced volume that is telling me, hey, I'm sniffing out something that doesn't really smell right. I do want to take a look at an update here for SOFI for the month of May in terms of fintel.io. Yeah, you sneaky bastards. There's an increase in institutional ownership exponentially, actually. Really ever since like October or so, exponential increase in institutional ownership that you're not really seeing on the price. because they were buying secretly. And you can see that on the unbalanced volume. I think right now SOFI institutional ownership is, it usually shows the percentage over here. Let me refresh that. No, I think it's usually like around like 40%, like higher than 40% now. Anyway, yeah, those sneaky bastards. Yeah, so that yeah, the monthly a little bit of bullish engulfing look to it, which is good. I just show you why I might not be worried about these red volume over here. But look at the 2 week. If you look at 2 week and you put the Ichimoku cloud, it might be more apparent in terms of what it's trying to do. It's just kind of burst into the cloud over here, and it's just basically just going sideways, trying to huck the bottom of the cloud, see whether or not you can get to a range bottom over here, and see whether or not it has enough juice to kind of propel it up higher. Yeah, we'll see whether or not this works out. I don't know. Like, I do think that the fundamentals, if you just look at the earning call after call after call, you just keep on improving. You look at short interest of this thing. You look at what IWM has been doing. Like, I just think that it's not a bad look for SOFI. Now, you did have a little bit of bearish cross over here because probably just been going sideways here for a while, but I think it's probably just consolidation. Like, this probably doesn't really mean anything. It's just been stuck in the range for a very long time. And what happens if you're a trader? You buy the bottom of the range, thinking that it'll go up, right? What happens if you're institutional accumulation? You're trying to buy as cheap as possible, right? So you're going to buy the range bottom too, and they're going to try to set the floor price for a stock, right? So that's kind of what I'm sniffing out with SOFI. And again, I just want to give you a very, very clear picture that burned into your head when it comes to the monthly, right? You remember what the monthly over here looks like with the Bollinger Band. You remember what IWM looks like on the Bollinger Band. Some people ask me about Riot. I think Riot looked very, very similar to SOFI, but Riot is not as bullish as SOFI because it's still underneath a rising 20-month moving average. Do I think Riot's going to go up? Probably. I do think Riot is probably going to end up getting back above the 20-month moving average because it's pointing up. It's not going to be very strong resistance. So I think it's probably going to end up going up, right? But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of stocks that just kind of look very, very similar. Like SOFI looks similar to Riot, also looks similar to BDBT, but SOFI is looking more bullish now. It's just range bound. We'll see what happens next. All right. Since you guys I think I addressed a lot of the things that you guys asked about. Palantir, what is it doing? I'm just going to start off with looking at actually, let's look at the Ichimoku cloud here to start with. Very clear in terms of what Palantir is doing, to me anyway. It is range bound. Why is this range if it's just touched like 2 points over here, right? Well, it's because it touched a lot more points over here in 2020 and 2021. It's been going on for a very, very long time, right? Up and down like that. So we're stuck in the same range, the same volume shelf that we had, a couple of years ago. And the support is the Tenkan line over here, which is the blue line over here. We had a bullish Tenkan cross, which is very, very supportive. And during bull market, price go up, riding Tenkan up, right? So it's not surprising that it keeps back testing the Tenkan and the bottom of this range over here to try to build up some energy before going up further, right? You can't just have boom, 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 just keep going up. You have to have some consolidation here and there and have a little bit of a bull flag over here and there. Would it have been nice if we end up breaking above with great earnings, just keeps on going up higher? Sure. But this is also not a bad thing because earnings actually is not bad. And the price is not reacting well to it. You know what that means to me? That means opportunity. I was originally saying, hey, I see that this is the 20 to 21 range is going to be like strong resistance. Really saying, hey, I buy here, I buy here. I've been buying all the way over here, right? I'll buy all the way up to until prices above like 2021. I'll stop buying. And sure enough, I stopped, when things got to like 25 or 27. I'm like, "Nah, I'm not buying. I'm just going to hold. It's going to go down, probably back test some of these levels down here." And, sure enough, it did. And when it got down to like 2021, I was like, yeah, I'll keep buying. I even got to 22. I was like, yeah, I keep buying because the earnings were great. Like the trajectory of the company is just excellent. The stock price has reflected that during the last earning. And so far, it's just been basically consolidating. I actually prefer this look rather than just having another green candle just kind of push above the Bollinger Band. This is actually a good thing over here. Back test some of the things that it needs to back test before going up higher. You have basically 1, 2, 3 candles over here. Like bears have been trying to push the stock down for 3 months straight. It's not able to do that. It's not even able to reverse this big giant green candle. It's not even able to reverse even half of this candle over here. Like this is how bullish this stock is. It may need to go sideways a little bit longer, maybe even go underneath the 10 for even a little bit longer before going up. But there's a lot of demand for the stock. And there's a lot of buy volume, and the sell volume is just not really quite that impressive. So there's not a whole lot of things to really talk about it because like it's just consolidation. It's just going sideways. It's in a bull transforming higher lows. The lower it gets, the better the opportunity. The higher it gets, the riskier it is. But the higher, even if it shoots up to like 30, 40 over like, by the end of like 2024, if it ends up doing that, if you buy when it went up like this, you might experience some short-term pain, but I think it's probably going to keep going up higher because if you look at like the Bollinger Band, it just keeps on expanding. Like the 20 moving average just keep on going up. If you look at the RSI on the monthly, like there's not really even like that overbought yet. It's not even that overbought. If you look at the weekly, like it's just been kind of riding the bull market support band up. I'm going to put up the bull market support band here for a second to kind of show you. It's been, where are you? Bull market support band. It's been kind of riding bull market support band up. Sure, it can close, like a week or 2 or 3 or 4 underneath of it, but the band is pointing up, so price is probably still going to end up going up, right? It is also known as the bear market resistance band, by the way. So I'm encouraged by this because let me get rid of all this junk right here. So the bull market support band is consisted of the 20-week simple moving average and the 21-week exponential moving average. I'm gonna basically just turn off the Bollinger Band, make things a lot less busy. I'm gonna turn off the bull market support band here too. 20 is pointing up. The 20-week moving average is pointing up. Right now, it's serving as a little bit of resistance. But if it's pointing up, it's not going to serve as very good resistance for longer term. Like if it keeps on pointing up, like eventually it doesn't take a whole lot. Like it's not very good resistance over here. It is serving as resistance right now, though. But because the 20-week moving average is pointing up, I'm not that worried. If anything, I think this whole move right here, this whole side moves right here has significantly cooled down the RSI, kind of like how it did over here, right? Price went way up from like, how much is it, like 7 something, all the way up to 20 something. RSI is just basically reset it from like 50 over to 50. And it's still above 50. And the trend is still bullish. And I'm not seeing really any like significant sign of exhaustion or anything like that on the weekly. I'm not seeing any bearish divergences that I'm worried about at this point. So I think it's going to look pretty decent moving forward. You guys are awfully quiet. Is it because the chat's not working well? Like there's like nobody talking here. I addressed a lot of things already. And I just wanted to share with you, like in terms of the macroeconomics and what I'm seeing with IWM, which is going to dictate, what's going to happen with the overall market. Thank you for just listening. Yeah, it's just going to dictate what's going to happen in the overall market. There are a lot of things that are, that are looking like exhausted, like the dollar, like oil. A lot, like whenever like CNBC start talking about oil, like, oh, I'm getting into oil because it's such deep effing value. I'm staying away from it. I don't know. Do I think that the Qs and SPY, S&P 500 is going to do well? Yes, I think it's going to do well. You know why I think it's going to do well? Listen to my interview with Danny on NVIDIA. That's why I think it's going to do well. I think that there's going to be continuation. There's going to be bullish continuation with S&P 500 and QQQ as well. But it's probably time for IWM to shine. Whenever I say that, I always worry about jinxing things, but I don't know how. Like, that's the thing. CPI's tomorrow. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it. But there are things that are telling me that maybe I should jinx it, right? Like oil, like the dollar. I don't want to jinx it. I could talk about like miners and like, you know, like MicroStrategy and all that, but I probably prefer to make a separate video on them because I haven't really sat down and look at all the charts individually. I just want to share with you like my market thoughts. I don't, yeah, I'm probably going to end like right around here. I think it's a good time. Talk about GameStop, talk about AMC at the beginning of the video, talk about, you know, pretty much all the risk on stocks in terms of their technicals. They all look the same. You know, IWM looked the same, ARK looked the same, MAR looked the same, SOFI looked very similar. Like, I don't have a whole lot to add. Thank you very much for listening to my live stream. I am going to end right here. You guys have a good one. Bye.